is it coming from your friend? So business. All right, Your Honour.
Thank you, councillors. Welcome to our meeting. I start with an acknowledgement of country. The Central Coast Council acknowledges the Palawa Pakana people as the traditional custodians of La Truita, Tasmania, and including the land, community, sea and waters where we live and work. Our community respectfully acknowledges the Panalapana tribe of the Northern Country of Tasmania, their continuing relationship to this land and their ongoing living culture. We recognise that we have much to learn from the First Nations people who represent one of the world's oldest continuing cultures, and we pay our respects to elders past and present and to all First Nations peoples living in and around the Central Coast community. And now our prayer. May the words of our lips and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable in thy sight, O Lord. Welcome everybody. I'm going to move straight on to 1.1, the confirmation of the minutes. Can I have somebody move? Thanks, Councillor Hiscott. Seconded, Councillor Viney. Any queries on those minutes of the 16th of May? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 2.1, a councillor workshops. There's a list there, quite a few. Can I have somebody move that that report be received? Thanks, Councillor Diprose. A seconder, please.
Second that, Mayor.
Next, Councillor Beswick. Any queries on those workshops? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 3.1 is Mayor's communications. There's nothing to report. 3.2 was the Mayor's diary. There's a list there. The Deputy Mayor also has attended an event. And can I have somebody move that those two reports be received? Thanks, Councillor Viney. Second, Councillor Overton. Any queries on any of those items? Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, Mayor, I must apologise. I was supposed to represent you at the Queen's Jubilee at the Penguin History Group last Tuesday. Unfortunately, that completely slipped my agenda due to a fair bit of other pressure. So I let you down, Mayor, and let Council down, but I did email them Tuesday night when I got home and had a reminder on the phone. So I think they'll be okay with that. But they still had a great day and everything went off okay.
Sure you'll make it up to them another time, Councillor Carpenter.
It might be invited back, Mayor.
No other queries? Oh, Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in relation to the Taswater Community meeting at the beach hut that you attended, just wondered if you had any information to share about that meeting or what might be happening next.
Actually, Taswater were very forthcoming. We met and Lyndon O'Neill was the only one that could attend that meeting as far as the community went. But it was very frank, open discussion, and I guess the basic was trying to get to the bottom of what was causing some of the things that that Lyndon had been noticing, changes on the beach. We went down to the outfall there, just along on the dog, just at the start of the dog exercise beach, and discussed that. I think after that they were going back to the surf club to have a look at some of the photos that Lyndon had brought along with him. I believe I've spoken to Lyndon since, and he said that he was very pleased with you know, with the way that they handled things. They were really keen to get to the bottom of it. And Paul, I don't know whether you've got any extra to add to that, because I didn't go along to the surf club afterwards.
Probably the thing to mention is that they are going to do some extra testing beach than where they normally do, so that was probably the outcome. No, certainly help Lyndon and the others sort of understand what's happening on the beach.
And will yourself or someone be advising the other parties that were concerned that weren't able to make it to the meeting? What will?
Yes, can do, although there's nothing very much to report other than the fact that they're going to try and investigate and do a little more work on it. But yes, I can certainly do that.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
No other queries on that group, on those? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 3.3 is declarations of interest. Anybody wishing to declare an interest in any item? No. 4.1 is councillor reports. Councillors who have been appointed by the council to community and other organisations wishing to report. Councillor Overton.
I attended the Central Coast Chamber of Commerce and Industry the first Monday in the month.
You might just let you take that down. Just
Thank you. Attended their meeting, and they will be holding their first business expo in October. This will be the first one of its kind on the Central Coast. It's promoting local business, so businesses can work with businesses. It's ease of startup, a startup supplier networking for new business in the area. Promoting networking between them, promoting buying local, and it's going to be held over at the stadium. This chamber was successful in obtaining a grant for funding for this to support the expo. So anyone that's sort of interested can contact the chamber for that. It should be a very good event, I'd say. Sarah has put a lot of time into it, and it sounds as if it's going to run pretty smoothly. Also, the Business Award night is being held in September this year. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other reports?
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. I've sort of handed one of these around earlier from Caves to Kenyon Group from the last meeting. So this is the next project, Mayor, that's, as you know, we have our VR goggles out and about, and there's another, what's the word I'm looking for, Councillor Iskett? Another version of what we filmed 3 years ago. There's a new one now, and if you're really keen on sitting with a set of goggles on and finding out what mountain biking is all about in the vista of Central Coast, I'd suggest you slip down to the visitor centre and strap yourselves in. Make sure you don't get dizzy, because it is fairly well hard up on that dizziness. But what we've done now, what the group's done, they've come up with this, considering we haven't been able to get it on the spirits as yet because of COVID and all that sort of stuff. So this little brown box is, you can put it together, you scan the QR code, and then you slip your phone in the back and put it on your face, and you basically get the same vision as what you would do if you put the goggles on. It might be the same quality. So this is what we hope to get a retailer on the boat to sell this and now go all around the world. So that's one way of getting Central Coast and everything good about Central Coast. It's basically can go wherever we want to try and put it. So this is a start to try and beat COVID. There'll be better versions come out over time and new things, but I do urge you to get down and put the goggles on with a new version. I could only sit through about 40 seconds of the mountain biking one. Even sitting down, you feel like you're going to fall off the chair. So just be wary, but please go out of your way and go and get it. So other than that, all the businesses still seem to be doing okay. We're meeting tomorrow night. We'll see how winter goes, but up until now, most of them are quite happy.
I'm a bit disappointed, Mayor. I thought we were going to get a demonstration by Councillor Carpenter.
We'll bring the goggles to the next meeting.
Oh, these ones.
Grandkids to put that together, Mayor. Don't recommend adults over 20.
If I may join in that statement, I've had a good look at the new version, we'll call it, and yeah, there's some incredible footage that's been put together, and I think we should bring a couple of goggles to the next workshop or something like that. everyone to have a look, because it is exceptional work that's been done there. So I just want to echo that.
Mm.
And I managed to put it together. So yes, it's definitely doable. And yes, it is a similar. It's amazing how good an experience a cardboard box can also give you as well. So yeah, just might
Unbelievable.
reiterate that.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. No other reports? Move on to 5.1, which is leave of absence. There are no applications for consideration. 6.1 is deputations and no requests have been made. 7.1 petitions. No petitions to be dealt with here. And 8.1 councillor questions without notice. So Councillor Van Roon, do you have a question? Councillor Beswick,
No, Mayor.
Councillor Dick Rose,
I thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Viney,
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Overton,
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Fuller,
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Hiskett,
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Carpenter.
No, thanks, Mayor.
Myself, Wayne Mann. Uh, 8.2 is councillor questions on notice and no questions have been received. 9.1 is public question time and that will be held at 6:40. 9.2 were public questions taken on notice and no questions were taken on notice from the May meeting. 10.1 is minutes and notes of committees of council and other organisations. There's a list there of minutes. Can I have somebody move that they be received, please? Thanks, Councillor Dick Rose. Second, Councillor Fuller. Any queries on any of those minutes? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.2 is the common seal, and I think you've got an updated schedule there in front of you. Can I have somebody move that be received? Councillor Viney, second, please.
Good, Mayor.
Thanks,
Second.
Councillor Carpenter. Any queries on those items in the common seal? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.3 is contracts and agreements, and again, I think you have an updated schedule in front of you. Can I have somebody move that be
I move,
received?
Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Carpenter.
Second that, Mayor.
Councillor Beswick. Any queries on those items? Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. 10.4 is correspondence addressed to the Mayor and councillors. There's a schedule there, and I think that once again is updated. Can I have somebody move that be received, please? Thanks, Councillor Fuller. Second, Councillor Hiskett. Any queries on that correspondence?
Mayor, just a Mayor,
Yeah.
just a query on the council's cap control procedure under the individual person. I just want to know what the process is from council going forward with the people that put that correspondence forward.
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Carpenter. Process from here is that I need to investigate exactly what's happened leading up to that event and afterwards, just so that I know all the circumstances around that event and what procedures have or haven't been followed. And then following that, I'll make contact personally with the owner of the event. Then through that process and what's happened. Again, extremely regrettable and just can't say how sorry we are for it, but it's something that we'll definitely learn from and make sure that it won't happen again. But we will follow through with the response and personally.
Thanks, Mayor.
No other queries on the correspondence. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.5 is development application determinations. Somebody move that be received, please.
So move, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Beswick. Second, Councillor Van Roon. Any queries on those determinations? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.6 is council acting as a planning authority. Can I have somebody move that report be received? Thanks, Councillor Hiskett. Second, Councillor Viney. Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. The 10.7, which is visitor accommodation, 3 holiday cabins, discretionary uses and setbacks at 517 Penguin Road, Penguin. Can I have somebody move the suggested resolution?
So moved, Mayor.
Thanks, councillor Carpenter. A seconder, please. Thanks, councillor Hiskett. Councillor Carpenter, would you like to speak to this?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm trying to get through to the end of the long report, which is excellent to get. In reading through this report from all ends of what we received, both from the representation and from the ag report and from council's planning report, I think this has gone into real detail of what these proponents want to do. And I know we should always judge things on planning ground, but on inspecting the ground, to me, in my opinion, it is good planning. It is making the use of very, very poor section of the property to where they could become a sustainable agricultural business. And we think about agricultural businesses of today, and we have the government wanting farmers to open the farm gate to attract tourism to agriculture. So this one really fits the bill. Economically, it adds dollars to the town. It's the top end type of accommodation. The views are unbelievable. So you would think it's not the $100 a night accommodation, it'd be well up the market chain. They seem to be placed strategically well, extremely well, where you have views to Bass Strait and views to the south and Dial Range from number 3 and the other 2 looking out over Bass Strait. In response to the representors, totally understand their concern about accommodation within a boundary. Now, it meets all the performance criteria as far as performance criteria goes. So under the planning grounds, it's a permitted, we can put it through. I can always understand rationale from agricultural producers mixing boundaries with visitor accommodation or other sorts on the neighbour's land. But I will stress the person who's building these cabins is also a farmer. So whatever happens on any neighbour's land is also going to happen on his. And I know the representative said about the lambs, lambing and so forth and so on. That is the same for the proponent. They also run a beef and lamb operation. So if they're not doing things right, things will be said. When you look at the property, it's 30 metres to the boundary, but the property down below with a steep embankment, and if you wanted to measure vertically up, straight up in the air, it could be anything to 150 metres to 200 metres away. We have a legislation that should cover spray drift that's governed by state government, state regulations. So, you know, it shouldn't come into the fact where spray drift goes upwards in windy weather, and we all know the rules that you're not supposed to spray in windy weather. The view to the south out of number 3, you don't even see the next door neighbour's property except for the substation up on top and the pumping shed. That's the only part of the property you see. I don't know how you restrict visitors leaving, say, the front deck of their unit and heading to the boundary. That would be up for the proponent or the developer to try and do that. Safety fencing and all this sort of stuff can come into that. I take the representatives' concerns about dogs. I've often thought whether you can put a condition on that no dogs are allowed at this establishment. I don't know, but I would also believe that I think the owners, again, have livestock around. So the last thing they would want to see is dogs coming out of them cabins and tormenting their livestock as much as the neighbours. The ability to sort of take the neighbour's property or through theft, I find very difficult because of the terrain. You'd want to be coming up with block and tackles if you was wanting to get from the bottom up to the top in carrying stuff. So I don't see that as an immediate problem. I think that we've got to come to, I believe we've got to come to some understanding between rural producers and the fact that we need accommodation in the proper places. You'll all be aware I voted against the one at Caprona a few, whatever months back, and I thought that was bad planning because it was exceptionally close. This one has the permit conditions where it's got buffer zones around it. It's got a natural buffer zone. I think good planning in rural accommodation with agriculture producers can only lead to better things for the promotion of agriculture and agricultural products. And it's something that we desperately need. As farmers and as food growers, we need to continually tell our stories, how good we are at it, how great our produce is. And having visitors there, knowing that, to me, it just all goes well for future benefits down the track. I don't think there's any other permits we could put on to sort of alleviate the fears of the neighbours. I really don't. I think that the topography of the ground basically takes 99% care of most of their concerns. And I would urge councillors to, vote with what you believe in, vote with the way that we can coexist, and we shouldn't, like myself, I shouldn't just have a blanket approach and say no to visitor accommodation in rural ground, in rural settings, where it's applicable and where it's good planning, because we can easily do that. By doing that, we stifle all in good ground. But we can have good planning decisions where it can get through. We can have good planning decisions where it doesn't suit, where we can say no. So I sit and listen to the debate, Mayor.
Any other speakers?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Van.
Mayor, I'm not going to support this suggested resolution. And the reason that I'm not going to support it is that I think it makes a mockery of our planning scheme. Planning scheme says that there should be no residential development within 200 metres of a boundary in agricultural land. Now, I've heard your discussions earlier this evening regarding, and I am aware of the topography of this land. I have been there, albeit a few years ago. I'm well aware that, it's on the edge of a cliff, if you like. Mm. But we need to uphold our planning scheme. We're setting a dangerous precedent. We can't say to somebody else that wants to do the same thing and put accommodation 20 to 30 metres from the boundary that I know we can't let you, because we've let these people in this case do it. Now, sure, the circumstances may be slightly different, but I do believe in the right to farm legislation. The people that have objected to this have every right to be concerned, in my opinion. And, this is dangerously close to a situation that we've been dealing with for the last 7 years, where a primary producer has been denied the use of some of his land because he cannot control his spray drift accurately enough to that, so it's not going to affect people just over the fence. And I would have thought that we as the council, we should have learnt from that experience. It's been 7 years and there's still no resolution in this case. We're sure we're working on it and things could change, but it's been a very sorry saga. And to think that now we are changing the rules. Sure, this is a discretionary use, but we are changing the rules. Don't worry about the 200 metres. We'll let you build something 20 to 30 metres away from the boundary. I'm not sure that the topography of the land should come into it. There's a principle at stake. And so I'm not going to support it. I do have an alternate motion that I would be prepared to put should this one fail, but I'll leave it up to the members. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Vine.
Yes, I'm prepared to vote with the resolution on the basis that I believe this is a good and sensible use of otherwise uncommercial rural land. And as I agree with what Councillor Carpenter has had to say, and I believe the natural boundary is formed by the topography of the actual land itself, and therefore if it were to come up in the future, then it certainly would be looked at differently if it was different topography, etc. So therefore, I mean, I believe that the planners have dealt well with the objections that have come up. So I'm prepared to vote with that resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree that I also had some concerns with it, and I very much appreciate the conversation that has been raised previously to give a little bit of assurance regarding the topography. I went for a drive around there today, but it's very difficult to see from the road. So I appreciate the comments that the Mayor and yourself, Councillor Carpenter, have made today on the topography. I think the planning, as a planning authority, this is the situation to use discretion. We have that discretion to make decisions not based on precedent, but based on what is happening in each specific circumstance. Again, I mean, it sounds like, and from the pictures, it sounds like the area might have been good to graze 3 sheep on, basically, is all you're going to get out of it. Whereas this is, a way to enhance our municipality with another high quality accommodation. I think that the only grounds for the issue is the protection of agricultural land, the Right to Farm Act, as it's called, and there is no real precedent to determine where that would stand in this situation. That's my only concern. It would be an interesting test case, as the representatives have raised about their ability to control wildlife in that area. That does give me pause as well, but I think there is an instrument there that if the representative wanted to pursue this further in that regard, then they have that opportunity, and that would be an interesting scenario just to see how that eventuated as well. And I don't know where that would fall. And since that, there are no other planning reasons. I think they've been well addressed in the report, and happy to continue to hear further debate to see if it sways any opinion. But at this stage, I'm supportive of the motion.
Any other speakers? Councillor Beswick.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to support the motion as put, having read the report and acknowledge the representors that have put their representation in, and having heard from yourself and Councillor Carpenter after visiting the site today, I think we've got to basically view each site on its merits, as Councillor Hiskett has said. The property that Councillor Van Rooyen's alluding to, that we've had some issues with over the last 7 years, is a very small lot of land, 2 very small lots of land adjacent to each other, whereas this one, that's where we can look at things sometimes a little bit differently, is a larger parcel of land, and the topography and so forth lends itself, the soil type and such. So I'll be happy to support this motion as it stands, Mayor.
Any other speakers? I'm certainly happy to support this now, and I under 6A with the vegetation buffer and screen, which must be established and maintained along the eastern boundary. I feel that addresses quite a bit, because it's right on, that would certainly help with the visibility of, what's below. Certainly such a long way from this site. And I agree with Councillor Beswick that the other property where there have been issues, that it's quite different, because they're right on boundary to boundary, right next door to one another, where this is a natural separation with the steep bank there. And you don't, it's not visible at all really from where the cabins will be. So I'm very happy to support this application, and ask Councillor Carpenter if you would like to close.
Thanks, Mayor. Only briefly, and I do take Councillor Van Rooyen's comments very seriously, because it has been an issue, what he's talking about. I would hope that the council makes better decisions moving forward, does look at it in a holistic point of view. Decisions were made years ago have failed us, and we have failed in that concern in that other instance. But I think if we just continue to go down that path and say no, 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 we set another bad precedent for anybody else going forward. I firmly believe this is achievable. I think the planners have done a marvellous job on putting that report together, and the opportunity, like Councillor Hesketh has stated, the opportunity is there to appeal and see where we stand. The Right to Farm Act is there, and no one's ever challenged that. And it would be interesting sometimes to get, not that we suggest to do it, but it'd be interesting to see where it sits. So I'll put it for the vote, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Move on to 10.8, which is a residential 3 carports and retrospective application for second vehicle access setbacks and building envelope for all dwellings and number of accesses for vehicles at 7 Kaiwong Crescent, West Ulverston.
I'd like to move an alternate resolution to that application, please, Mayor.
Resolution is
The alternate resolution reads that the LPS 2022, is that the right one, or is it? No, sorry, got the wrong one. Beg your pardon. That the application for residential 3 carports and retrospective application for second vehicle access, setbacks and building envelope for all dwellings and number of accesses for vehicles at 7 Kaiwong Crescent, West Ulverston, application number DA 20221112, be refused under clause 8.4.2-P3A4 on the basis of the visual impacts caused by the apparent scale, bulk or proportions of the building when viewed from an adjoining property.
thank you. Is there a seconder?
I second that, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Van Ryn. Councillor Beswick, would you like to speak to this?
Thanks, Mayor. There's not a lot really needs to be said regarding this. I've been up and had a drive past the property. Our planning scheme allows for 3 metre high, 9 metre long as of right on anybody's boundary. In this instance, the eastern boundary, which is on the high side of the adjoining property, they're asking for a 14 metre long and in some parts of that 3.2 metres high structure. I couldn't support this application moving forward because of the impact it's going to have on the adjoining property. I accept the planner's report. I think they've come up with that report in some ways without good information. The plans and the elevations are not what I would probably expect as a professional in the field. So that's my reason for moving the alternate resolution, Mayor.
Any other speakers? Councillor Hesketh.
Thank you. I think the planning report provided gives information, fundamental information. Absolutely agree with that. I think that the planning report focuses heavily on the shadow aspect of it, and I think it answers that question well. I don't think the shadows are significantly greater than are already produced by the existing dwelling. But I think, yeah, agree with Councillor Beswick's alternate resolution that the bulk and scale, when viewed from the adjoining property, which is what we're addressing, is significant. You know, again, having driven past as well and having a good look, if you were sitting in front of the, not be very pleasant, and you'll get the right word. You are visually impacted when by the apparent scale, bulk, and proportions of that building. So I think it has a clear implication and good solid reasoning for planning refusal.
Any other speakers?
Well, yes, Mayor. I agree with the previous 2 speakers. I did go and have a look at the property this afternoon, and I thought to myself, how would I like to be living at number 5? and having to look at that every time I go out the front of my house? And the answer is clearly no, I wouldn't. And also, you know, I know that one of the crossovers was put in quite some time ago, and this is, I guess, a retrospective application to make it legal. But in that whole circle, there are so many crossovers. There's hardly any room for cars to park, and this is going to make it well. It's not going to make it worse because it's already bad. There are two crossovers on the one property. But no, I wouldn't like to live there and have to look at this structure that is planned. I would go along with one carport on one side of the house, even to a maximum of 9 metres, but I certainly wouldn't go to 14 metres. I don't think that's fair.
Any other speakers? Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor. I suppose reflecting on this in relation to the previous conversations about the purpose of the planning scheme and the fact that, you know, it is the instrument that gives us guidance about what could be reasonably expected, what people reasonably expect in particular locations. This doesn't have the benefit of any topography that will create a different feel to the location. So just the fact that the building and the built structures along those boundary areas, not only for the residents of number 5, but for everybody that lives, you know, the ambience of everyone that lives in that area. The scheme suggests that we don't want long buildings the length of full boundaries and corner to corner, because that's not the type of environment in which we choose to live. So in this case, I'm absolutely guided by what the scheme suggests is the best practice and the best way to lay out our living environments, and so I'm happy to support the amended or the alternate motion.
Any other speakers? Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to concur with the previous speaker and support the alternate motion. And I think once again, the councillor said, I thought there might have been some issue with shading. Again, on viewing and reading all the documents, I think that's been addressed. But it's the elevation and it's the bulk and scale and the length. And I think I believe, again, we want a community that's got some room around the house and feel like their amenity is being protected to make their life still the same as what it was when they first bought the place so many years ago or whatever. So we will probably get building over time, but it's not something I can support at the moment, letting that go ahead at 4 metres long, and the elevation of 7 compared to 5 does make that bulk and scale huge.
Any other speakers? Councillor Beswick, would you like to close?
Yes, Mayor. Thanks for the support of the other councillors. Having said all that, there's no reason that we can't in the future, and each project needs to be looked at on its merits. Again, we get back to the topography with the previous application. In this instance, the affected people are below. If you've got a flat site, and you were having something like that, I would be supportive of it, and we've had it in our own instances as well. But it's just, there's the impact on what is basically an outdoor space, the afternoon sun and so forth in this property. So there's probably not much more to add, Mayor, but other than I support this motion, this alternate motion.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. It's just a couple of minutes to 6:40, which is public question time. So I think I might start public question time now. If anybody has a question that they would like to ask, please state your name and where you're from. And if we can answer your question tonight.
Yeah, I haven't got any questions. I'll just come along and observe the night. And thank you for the opportunity.
If anybody else comes in around 6:40, I will take their question. But for now, let's move on to 10.9, which is the combined draft amendment to Central post local provision schedule to rezone land from low density residential to local business and apply a specific area plan over the South Road site and development application. Or a vehicle fuel sales and service station with truck refueling station and food services. Can I have somebody move the suggested resolution?
I'll move the suggested resolution, Mayor, and then I can move the amendment.
I'll just say, if there's going to be amendment, whoever moves and seconds the motion cannot move and second the amendment.
Sorry, thanks, Mayor.
Under the foreshadowed amendment.
Move the
All motion?
motion, and can I have a second, please?
Seconded, Mayor.
Thanks. Seconded, councillor Carpenter.
And can I move a suggested amendment to that resolution?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can.
Seconder.
You want me to read the resolution?
Yes, please.
I'd like to move raise an amendment to permit condition number 6 to be changed from 9 metres to 20 metres, which is to do with signage in the permit conditions.
So is that the recommendation be supported, albeit, is that the
The
first?
second line.
The
That's the second line.
Okay, then raise the amendment. Okay. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Fuller.
So we're now debating the
Now
amendment.
Councillor Beswick, would you like to speak?
Thank you.
He speaks on the amendment, doesn't he?
That's right.
Yes.
Thanks, Mayor. All I can say is that this is an exciting development for our region. This is not just a Central Coast project. This is a project which the coast is in need of. Some people call it a truck stop. It is much more than a truck stop. It's a place where there's access for fuel, conveniences, and all those sort of things.
Sorry, the debate would be on the amendment.
Yeah, I was leading into that.
Be the original debate back on there.
Would you like me to deal with that, Mayor?
On the amendment. Thank you. Yes.
Only, and I was leading into that as far as, but so this project in its location, the proponents have on their plans, they've got on there's 2 pylon signs. There's one 9 metres in South Road and there's another one 20 metres in the southwest corner of the land, which is the land in the southwest corner is quite low. My reason for moving this amendment is that for 9 metres it isn't going to be high enough. I don't want to see us as a planning authority not necessarily making it difficult, but needing the proponent to spend extra time working through, I need it higher than that. As we're coming from the west and people that are travelling that don't necessarily know that this fuel outlet's there, they'll come around the corner where the overpass is on South Road. They need to be able to see that that's there rather than get up to where there's all of a sudden an off-ramp. Oh, there's a sign there, because they're not going to be able to see a 9 metre sign. I'd prefer to be able to let the application go through as it is being put. And then if we can or need to, we can work the site down from that and then negotiations with the developers rather than us as a planning permit put a condition like that in there.
Councillor Heskett.
Support the amendment. Yes, I think that the reasons for that amendment are very solid. That it is a safety concern to put that restriction that may make the sign essentially useless, in that it is a very low elevation in that southwest corner, and a 9 metre sign is completely ineffective for the purpose that sign is trying to achieve. I would quite like the proponent to investigate with Department of State Growth or something like that if they can come up with an alternative on the highway instead of needing it on their site. But in relation to that suggested amendment, I think it would be, if council left it as it was originally submitted in the council report, it is no doubt that the proponent would then argue that it should be allowed to go to 20, and if they were successful, the public wouldn't have had an opportunity to debate the 20 metre signage, and so therefore this gets that debate out there. Public can have their say on that as the original motion. The amended original motion can have their say on that, and then we can debate it. But I would like to urge the developer to consider alternatives as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll be supporting the alternative resolution for similar reasons outlined by Councillor Hiskett there. Whilst I agree that 20 might not be an ideal size, then I concur that 9 is too small. I don't profess to know what the right height is, and I would like that debate to ensue through the public consultation process that this combined application will now go through, and both the developer and any members of the public can express, that their points of view about the required height that, does achieve what it needs to achieve in a safe way, and hopefully, with a slightly lesser impact to the surrounding residents. But like Councillor Hiskett, I feel that if we didn't allow the 20 metre height to go through, then the public may not have that opportunity to make their comments felt alongside the proponent. So I think that is the best thing that we could do at this point in time. Other than that, that the report is complete, and I think some of those other conditions that have been suggested by staff are quite appropriate. So happy to just support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter.
Mayor, I'm not going to support the amendment. I get confused every time I think about this. There is a height limit, and I think that's why the permit's there, and all the permits can be reshaped after it goes through the commission, after we get submissions in. So everybody's got that opportunity later on down the track, I believe, and I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong, be able to put their opinion and put their submissions in. We say 20 metres now, and it could be perceived by the public it's going to be. So it could have the reverse effect and could cause a heck of a lot of work now before we even get to any real engineering drawings or if, buts or maybes or why we want it 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. I don't know. I understand the safety reasons that Councillor Beswick's brought up, not an issue. But it might come down the track, like Councillor Hiskett said, when we go right through the whole submissions and everything, they haven't got a sign there, it might be out on the freeway. So it alleviates all that post-work or pre-work later on. So I'm not going to support the amendment. I'm just going to let it ride as it is, knowingly that all the permits can be rejigged further on down the track, all the permit conditions, if I understand it correctly.
Any other speakers? Councillor Van Roon.
Yes, Mayor, I'm not going to support the amendment. I really cannot understand the reasoning behind having it put in there at 20 metres. Now, look, I only went to grade 10. I did 60 years ago. I've gotten a lot since then. But to me, the way that this reads, if we pass this as part of the original motion, as of a right, they can build this tower to 20 metres high. And sure, there may be members of the public that will object to that. Some probably may not even pick it up until the thing's up there and brightly shining. And from 20 metres up, it could affect other properties, particularly when it's left on until 11 o'clock at night, which is what is proposed. And so I'm not sure about the 9 metres either. I mean, that's not very effective, but that's what they've asked for, 9 metres. So why give them any extra? I mean, so I'm gonna vote against the amendment unless someone can explain to me in satisfactory form as to why we should go with the 20 metres.
Any other speakers? Councillor Viney.
having listened to the argument, I can actually see where Councillor Carpenter and Hiskett are coming from. I believe that it does actually give them an extra leg for the ratepayers to actually look at the project later on and actually have some input into that, rather than giving them carte blanche on setting it up as at 20 metres. I think 20 metres is probably a huge structure, and I'd probably like to see more community input at a later stage on that proposal, if required, in fact, by the developer.
Any other speakers? I think I have to agree with Councillor Carpenter and some of the others. The 9 metres is in our planning scheme, and they have the opportunity to try and push, to get something higher. But I think the 20 metres is, if it had been halfway, I might have been able to accept it. But I don't want to be supporting something that would be 20 metres, because I would be horrified to see something 20 metres high in that vicinity. So I'm going to not support the amendment. Councillor Beswick,
Yes,
do you get to
I hope so, Mayor. Do I?
to close the debate on the amendment?
Just a couple of things. Councillor Van Rooyen raised that the developers have asked for 9 metres. The developers have actually asked for 20. So we're not giving them something that they haven't had in their development. The montages that we were given, we've had some sessions with the developers before this has come to council, have shown the height above the road, and it's not super high. So the developers haven't actually asked for 9, they've asked for 20. Now, as has been said, this is a joint planning and rezoning application. So I'd like to perhaps ask a question, General Manager, does that mean that the community get one chance to have a look at this? Because it is a joint planning application and a rezoning application?
They will get the opportunity to look at it. It will come back to here, and then we will send it on to the commission.
So therefore, if we go at 9 and the developer puts in an application to go 18.5, 20 or whatever, while the community has got an opportunity to put in representations at this stage, they won't have any opportunity to be able to object to the 18.5, because in the end, as Councillor Hiskett has mentioned, that it'll go to the planning tribunal for the rezoning, and when that comes back, the planning application will actually be approved, and they might agree with the proponents at 18.5. Now, I'm happy to be corrected, but that's the assumption that's been raised by Councillor Fuller and Councillor Hiskett.
Through you, Mayor, I can just add something. My understanding is that when the Tasmanian Planning Commission considers our final report, and they'll consider all of the evidence, including the representations, they could hold their own hearings for so determining the outcome as well. So potentially there would be further public input. But
yeah, again, potentially, not will be. By this amendment, it gives the community the opportunity to be able to speak on this, what the applicant has already put in. With the condition number 6, our planners, in their wisdom, I'm not going into bat against the planners at all, they've suggested that we can bring it down to what our standard is, and I just think that we're making it not necessarily difficult for the developers, that they've got to go then and fight against our planners to get what they are probably going to need, because the 9 metres isn't enough. Yeah, so I suppose I can't say anything more than that, other than in the end, we could be creating an issue that where, because it's in a joint planning and rezoning application, that the community gets one shot at this, and that generally, maybe, that there's no reason not to support this amendment because it's not locking it away.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. If this was approved with the amendment of the 20 metres, this would then come back to council before we send it to the state, and we would have the opportunity then to amend it ourselves to 9 metres if the debate had not been.
Yeah,
So this way we can put the amendment through for the public to talk about, but we can still have it at 9 metres for the final development application, part of the rezoning that we sent to state. So just to clarify that point.
Right, I'm going to put the amendment. All those.
I finished, have I?
Yes.
There was-
Sorry, I thought you had.
He asked if he could ask a question, and I hadn't necessarily finished. But
Oh, I thought he was asking the.
No.
yeah. No, but I suppose
To close, Councillor Best.
right away, am I out of time? Sorry, Mayor. Yeah, basically, as has just been said, all the representors can put representations in, and then we can deal with it. So based on that, I encourage the councillors to support this amendment.
I'll put the amendment. All those in favour?
Aye.
2, 3, 4, 5. The amendment is carried.
can I just get the hands again?
Please put your hand up. Councillor History, Councillor Fuller, Overton, Councillor Diprose, and Councillor
Done well, good debate.
Hiskey.
So speaking on the original motion now, sorry.
Now
As
the
I move-
amendment becomes the original motion.
Yep, so speaking on the new amended motion, as a mover of that, in Councillor Beswick's words, this is an exciting opportunity. I've used these words. Yes, I think
Doesn't the mover of the motion get to speak first on the motion?
The
I believe I
original-
did.
the
I did move it. I beg your pardon. Yeah,
Point of order.
A while ago now.
just trying to confuse the issue.
Yes, this exciting opportunity. Train of thought has left the station. I'll get it back in just a moment. I think this is the development application and the rezoning and the development application that comes with it will bring good things to our community. Good things is a terrible word. I'll try and rephrase that. It will be beneficial for our community. More people will come off the highway at one of the entrances to Ulverston, and with that is the opportunity that they continue. Well, why don't I go through Ulverston instead of going around it? Any opportunity, I think, to pull people off the highway into our city is an absolute benefit and win for the council. Is that what you're going to say as well?
City now.
Oh, well, city, it might as well be. So I think the inclusion of electric charging stations is a big win, and the proponent has advised that they are putting I can't remember where it is, 3 in there, I think, but with the expectation and capability of including more. I think as our state government has committed to net zero by 2030 or something like that, that this is something that's going to be needing to be increased, and it's good to see that the proponent has taken that opportunity, although it might not be commercially sensitive at the moment. It's obviously a long-term application. The amount of community consultation that they have put forth prior to lodging this has been commendable, and I'd like to think that that issues with the now amended motion that we've put through with the signage can hopefully be resolved. I don't necessarily know if the 20 metres is good or not. I think the public should have the opportunity to have their say on it, and I would encourage the proponent to think outside the box and find an alternate way to do that instead of a 20 metre sign. But I think we should certainly have the debate on that issue. Which is good to know that's come through in the amended motion, and I commend the motion to the council.
Any other speakers?
Well,
Councillor Van Ryn.
yes, Mayor. Look, I am going to support the motion, but in doing, and there's no need for me to speak on the importance to the area of a facility like this. I think there is a need for truckies to be able to pull off the highway, use toilets, get themselves some food. They shouldn't have to wait until they get right up the top end of the Midlands there. What's the name of that place there? That truck stop? Yeah, Canara. Before they can do so, they should be able to pull off safely. And there's a lot of parking around this area, so trucks can park there for an hour while they have a nap. I do have some disappointment as far as the proponents for this development came and addressed the council at a workshop situation, and they told us that they had knocked on doors in the neighbourhood and that there was only one person who had some concerns. Now, they obviously didn't think about Knights Road, and they may not have considered Knights Road as being part of the neighbourhood. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't. The residents of Knights Road have not known anything about this. The first they knew about it was the story in the newspaper today. And so they will, of course, get the opportunity for to put in comments and objections when this goes out on display. But it's a bit misleading what they told us, that they had canvassed the area, because Knights Road is very much part of that area, albeit on the other side of the highway. It's still reasonably close. But yeah, I'm going to support this development. I think it will be advantageous. Not only will it, perhaps encourage people to come into town, but it may encourage trucks to stay out of town if they want fuel. And we all know the problems the trucks have when they've got to go through residential areas and so on. So I will support it.
Thank you. Councillor Carpenter.
Thanks, Mayor. I concur with Councillor Van Rooyen, and I'm supporting the motion, and it's whether it's a fuel stop or whatever, a cafe or 24-hour service. I'm supporting the motion in support of the truck drivers, that we're not going to see any less trucks on our highways going forward. We're only going to see more and bigger trucks. And we all know our road statistics, and not many of them are to do with truck operators or truck drivers, but they desperately need somewhere to pull off between Circular Head and Epping Forest. And this is a site. I'm not saying it's the best site on the coast, but it's a site, and it's proposed to come forward and put this in front of us when the opportunity's been out there for any developer to do the same, and no one has done. So that's the reason I'm supporting the project, is for them guys and ladies driving trucks that have nowhere to pull off, nowhere at all. And the same as Councillor Van Rooyen, a little bit disappointed after a phone call today that residents of Knights Road didn't get any consultation. So I think, well, as mentioned here tonight, and they do have the opportunity later on of putting their submissions in and objections, but it also gives the proponents the opportunity to go back out and start doing some consulting again. They might have to look at some mitigating some noise factors if this goes ahead. So I'm glad this has come to where it has tonight. It gives them the opportunity to do that before it goes too much further over the next 4 or 5, 6 months. To go and have a chat to the people in Knights Road and hear their concerns and just sort of try and alleviate some of them problems that might come up if this goes further down the track. It's not a done deal. I like the zoning prospect of the fact that if it's not a service station, they just can't go and build whatever they like on it. I really do like that criteria of rezoning it to suit this proposal, that we all of a sudden can't change and we'll build something else that nobody wants, but we can't stop at a later date. So I'm supporting the motion in the amended form. I have no issue with that one way or the other, so that'll sort itself out going forward, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Viney.
Yes, I like Councillor Carpenter, will be supporting the motion, mainly due to the advantage I can see on a commercial basis for the township and the municipality. I do note that it is a combined application. It's got a zoning and a development aspects to it. And with the zoning, which is the first part of the process, we're actually just starting the application, initiating the process for the amendment, which will go to the Tasmanian Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission will then decide whether it can or it can't. So any objectors to that, to the project and to the rezoning in particular, can actually object at that point in time. And like I said, it's out of our hands, but we are initiating that process to put to the Tasmanian Planning Commission. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Kiprose.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give credit to the proponents who, when they put this proposal to us in the workshops, they actually considered not only the truck drivers, but the families of truck drivers. As was said before, there's going to be more and more trucks on the road because that seems to be that's the way our freight is moving these days. With that also, we will see more female truck drivers, which then will help women make choices if they have families to be able to do that, because the proponents have proposed that they will have a small park and an area where, because we know truck drivers drive extreme hours, that they can organise with their families to actually meet them at the truck stop for children to be able to give mum or dad a hug and actually break up that time away and give them a little fun area for the children to go off and have a run around. And with both parents, grandparents or whatever, all being able there to be able to support the people in that industry that do it tough, being without their families on the road all the time. So I just wanted to say that that's a big tick as far as considering the families of truck drivers, let alone the safety aspect of it, but also the mental health aspect of it as well. Thank you.
Any other speakers?
I'll go back to where I was before, Mayor. I'm excited about this proposal. And we're not in a city, we've got a great town. But as I said previously, I see this as a regional benefit. I'm one of those persons that don't see that we're Central Coast and we've got this and it'd be great for our area. These sort of premises, just like our Hive Centre, they're regional and it's going to benefit everybody in the region. I agree with Councillor Diprose that the proponents, they've been to see us. I think that they're very well researched. They've done a great job with all their documentation. I accept that Knights Road, and I never thought Knights Road would have been canvassed at all, because to me they aren't adjacent to actually the area. Like, do you go Knights Road, do you go Oliver's Road, because there's houses up there which are probably just as close as Knights Road. There's got to be somewhere where in the end the consultation, the direct consultation sort of stops. I think that they've done a great job. I commend them on that. I'm pleased that I've got the support with that amendment. It means now that we can actually work with them to make it the height that's appropriate for safety. That was the main reason that I was talking about changing the height, which was the safety of making it visible as you're coming through, especially from the west, that you can see that sign and then there's not people jamming their brakes. Oh, geez, there's a petrol stop in there and they've got to pull over and there's a car on the inside of them or whatever. So I'm pleased to support this. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. It's interesting seeing the story on the Advocate site, that there's been a lot of positive likes and so forth on that. Not that I take too much heed in some of that, but there hasn't been very much negative at all. So the other thing is considering that I was talking to the person that runs the West Ulverstone petrol station today, and that's actually winding up. So for the meantime, unless somebody else goes in there, West Ulverstone won't have a petrol station. So it'll be, could be beneficial in the longer term. Thanks, Mayor.
While I'm not a fan of the 20 metre height, I do support this project, and I think it's I was impressed when they came and presented to the council, but I think now I hope that all of the community actually get on board. They become familiar with what's being proposed, and they put in their representations and have their say, and that's the most important thing now, so that the community can be supportive of this and we can try and work out the best outcome for our community. Councillor Hiscott,
Thank you.
you're one to close.
I believe so. I'll use my 2 minutes wisely. 2 minutes for closing, 5 minutes for debate. I had commented here, had noted here, and then Amanda and then Councillor Diprose put it quite eloquently, but the use of families and how they've developed that is truly commendable. And also 24-hour secure toilet and shower facilities too. I mean, that is something that, you know, we as a community in general are lacking, and this is something that now the private sector is going to provide. So, you know, there are people that, you know, may not be able to get to a shower that think, well, at least I can pop down there and it's secure. They might be embarrassed about that. They can go in the middle of the night and they can use those facilities. So it's good to know that they've provided that facility, you know, that perhaps council should be doing more of as well. So I guess in regarding to the consultation that they've had with the community, they didn't need to do any. Like, you know, the development application, the developer doesn't have to do any consultation at all. So yes, I believe that when they hear that Knights Road missed, they'll probably go, oh, gee, I hadn't thought of that themselves. So, and I'm sure this will be an opportunity that they can be encouraged to re-canvass that area and have a conversation with them about that. This is obviously, you know, not the development application, it's the draft development application. I understand it, if that's how it's read properly. Well, however, the outcome I'm looking for is the fact that the opportunity will be there for representatives to have a say about this, and I welcome that feedback and agree that hopefully we can get you know, everybody on board, and that will be the onus on the developer to bring the community along further now that this is, you know, sort of become a much more public vehicle than it was before. And you know, maybe with more development like this, we could become a city. That was always the dream of, I think, was it Councillor Howard, I think, always said that. You know, perhaps with more development like this, my statement will come to fruition, and we can get all the benefits that come along with that. So, so other than that, happy to commend the motion and have a vote.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Move on to infrastructure services, 10.10 Raby Street Spring Clean. Councillor Fuller, you would like to move this motion?
I would. Thank you, Mayor.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hiscott. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have done some workshop discussion on these issues led by the Director of Engineering. So I thank him for his workshop and for his work in that regard. And you know, some might say that this is operational, not strategic. This is, you know, perhaps zooming in on something that we are doing reasonably well most of the time. But I suppose for me, it's about the fact that we did do that survey in 2019-20, and the community did tell us what it was that they value. And they're clearly listed there: cleanliness of public spaces, maintenance of public spaces and street furniture, and quality of public space. We've done some work on the other actions that the community highlighted through that place score finding. But for one reason or another, I personally feel that, you know, we need to take it back and give some attention to these aspects of the things that are our responsibility. Certainly for myself, certainly it's something that is constantly raised with me, the cleanliness and the general appearance of our CBD area and our shopping area. And yes, we acknowledge that, you know, in the longer term, there's some significant work to be done there. The space is somewhat tired, and it's served as well, the work that was done, but, and, you know, very encouraged to hear conversation around the table that councillors want to make an investment into thinking about the overall appearance and how we can make some longer term suggestions and improvements. And yes, many of the the things that influence the general appearance of the cleanliness and the tidiness of our shopping area is on private property. It is, the fuse box that's on the outdoor side of the shop. It is the door. It is the windows. It is all of that type of thing. But as you can clearly see from my motion, the purpose was that we take a leadership role, that we encourage a spring clean, that we show those business owners that we're a partner in cleaning and improving and making the place sparkle, and particularly in the lead up to our summer and Christmas period, where we know that Central Coast is the place to shop and to be and to bring your family during that summer period. So the report is there. The director has indicated what it is that they are able to do within the confines of their own work schedule, and gratefully, thought about how he might adjust his timelines to make it a concentrated period of cleaning. But again, that the purpose of the motion is to lead our business community in getting all pulling our boots on, and making the space that we currently have as best as it possibly can. So I seek the support of the table.
Thank you, Mayor. In support of Councillor Fuller, I think the most important part of this motion is that the awareness campaign, that we get as many businesses as possible on board. We sit there and say, look, this is an opportunity. The better everyone has their shop looking and council space, public space is looking, the more benefit that has to every single shop on Raby Street. And the surrounds as well, but brings more people into that area who spend more time there because they enjoy being there. That is the outcome, absolutely, from that Place Score findings, and we continually receive comment on indirect action that we do that supports that. But this is some immediate direct action that says here were the issues, the findings, and here is a direct action that addresses those findings. I think it's just that little bit extra where we know we clean down the bins, and we know that we regularly remove vandalism, and we know that we do that. But this says this tells the community that we do that. It shows them that we're bringing it along, and we say, look, here is the time to do this. And I think this is a magnificent initiative. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Viney.
I'd like to commend Councillor Fuller on the motion. And although we know that the public areas of the street have the responsibility in maintaining and cleaning by the council, this actually gives us the opportunity to bring the businesses that own properties along that strip on board on that particular weekend to actually work in conjunction with the council, and also be able to encourage them to clean up anything that needs tidying, etc. during that time. And I think it gives them that space to be able to do that, and I think it's a good idea in that respect. Thank you.
Mayor, thanks, Mayor. I have no reason to not support the motion as it's put. I do question the time it's taken to put it all together without correspondence being first sought through the chamber. And I look forward to Councillor Overton's comments coming back out of the chamber, so we knew exactly where we could have went, when, why, and whatever. And I do take it that we are trying to lead the horse as such. If we could get some comment from the chamber in relation to the business and find out what and how and when and why they wanted to do something, I think we could have had a great motion out of all that. I also do take that it's probably not going to spend any more money than what we've already spent, that we've already allocated, which I'm not saying it's good, bad or indifferent, but there's no more impost onto our budget, which is good at this present point of time. I will comment though that people view our amenities differently. And if everyone you get that might say Central Coast is not looking great, you might get 5 or 6 or 7 that say it's looking absolutely fantastic compared to somewhere else. I often get comments in regards to Penguin, about how great Penguin looks. And it's time we done something in Ulverstone. Again, I stand to be clarified, but I would ask if we spent any more than $100 on the main street of Penguin, apart from the pathway. I'd wait for that information to come forward in the last 12 months or so. But it's perception. Done that beautiful pathway along the foreshore, and it's changed everybody's perception. So I take Councillor Fuller's and Councillor Hiskett's thoughts behind this. If we can get people to think, don't have to change the world, but by gee, you can change your perception of places. And, you know, the rubbish bins and that, you nearly have to get down with brass, I reckon, to make them shine. They are there by the use by date, but it's in the report, but they're going to be changed over a period of time. And we also know that the path, I mean, the pavers and all that sort of stuff are nearly to their use by date. So the concept of doing up whole Raby Street's got to come forward now and get that long-term plan, so we can start some really good conversations on what the businesses might like and what the people would like to see how Raby Street flows. So I really look forward to. So I have no reason not to support the motion. I hope we can get the businesses on side. I really do, because they're the ones that will determine how far we can go and change our facility through Raby Street.
That's a bit gross.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take up the point there that Councillor Carpenter said about the chamber. We have a lot of businesses that are actually not part of the chamber. So I like the whole concept of having like a spring cleaning period, because if you get one business out there and making their shop front look a bit spruced up, I mean, sometimes a fresh coat of paint does the world, but sometimes just a bit of a clean with some soap and water does just as well as that as well. So hopefully it's something that would encourage then other businesses to say, oh wow, that's made a difference, just that bit of scrubbing there. I would like to do that on my shop front. So for me, that's what I see coming out of this, is like the whole street. I mean, and Penguin as well, and not take it on board over there as well, not just be Raby Street, but our main streets within our municipality, to have a spring cleaning time, and then all take part. Chamber coming on board, that's great, but as I said, there are also a lot of small businesses that aren't members of the chamber that, you know, hopefully will benefit from this. Thank you.
Any other topics? I suppose I can support this, but I must say that I'm disappointed that it's come to council this way, because to me it is really operational. But there are some great strategic things that we need to be doing in our main street. And I'm not saying that any of these shouldn't be done, but if our rubbish bins aren't clean, and if our streets aren't clean, and our gutters and drains aren't done, then more needs to be done in that regard. It should be that way all the time, and our service levels should make sure that it's always done. And that shouldn't have to come to this council table. So I'm disappointed that it's come here when it should have been handled in a different way. There are things in here like the replacement of trees. There's talk about the street art and things like that. But there are some great strategic things in our actions for the year that address those things. So the redesign for the work, you know, of Raby Street and the way it's cleaned and looked after. There's the strategic review looking at how it's designed, and you wouldn't go and plant new trees now if you're going to have a look at the whole design of Raby Street. We also wanted to look at how it connects from the top to the bottom, from the hive all the way down to the wharf. That's a big piece of work, and that's a strategic piece of work that needs to happen. And it's a whole of CBD plan, because hopefully it'll go from the hive to the civic centre as well. We're doing our arts and culture strategy review, which I hope take in the street art and all of that sort of thing. So I'm not against anything that you're wanting to have happen here. It's how it's come about. And I believe that our staff do a pretty good job. We're getting new rubbish bins, you know, in the CBD. Yes, if, you know, when I look at our directors' answers to some of those things, you know, the work is happening. But if it's not happening up to our standard, then we need to be, you know, it needs to be made known to the staff all the time, because I think that they take pride in their work as well. So I feel like we're saying, you're not doing a good enough job, we're all going to have a big spring clean, and, you know, getting the businesses on board. If you can do that out of this, then I absolutely, that is a positive to come out of it, because that's something that we haven't really been able to do in the past. So I take that on board. I think that that's positive. But I look forward to some of that strategic work happening, and in future, I expect that our council staff would ensure that the CBD is clean and up to standard as our community would expect. Any other speakers?
All I would say, Mayor, that it's a pity that ex-councillor Bloomfield is not here to hear this debate, because it was his favourite topic. Too true.
If I could just make one comment, Mayor, and I appreciate the debate from everybody around the table. And what you've just said there, I concur, and I've said the same thing myself at workshops and so forth. It's no different to the parks and all those sort of things, that the standards that I and the community might expect perhaps sometimes don't get to where we probably would like them to. And I was just listening to what you were saying then, and I listened to the others. The businesses, yes, we would like them to become involved in, I'm not sure how many instances, unfortunately, the businesses aren't the owners of the land and the buildings. So it's not only the businesses we need to rally with this, it is the owners or the landlords of the properties. And they're probably harder to get the money out of to do anything, because the businesses want their premises to be looking as smart as possible, so that it encourages people in through their doors. That's the only comment I'd like to make. But I commend Councillor Fuller and Councillor Hiskett for getting down with their brush and broom in the car park a few weeks ago, just to show us how to do it. And I expect them to be leading the way on Spring Clean Day.
Councillor, oh, sorry. Councillor Rogerson.
I agree with everything you said, Mayor Bond. If I take a leaf out of Tony's books, back a few years back, you know, if there were a few leaves out the front of your shop, you went out and swept them yourself. And it's a good way of building up business by sweeping out the front of your shop of the mornings while people are walking to work. I think as I'm walking at 5:30 in the mornings, I see the council workers out on the main street with their blowers and everything. And I think they do a pretty good job considering, but they can't control the wind and that comes along after they've been there. I think as far as the businesses go with cleaning up outside their fronts, I think there's a lot to be done on the rear end of their buildings, because so many rear ends face onto the car park, and that tells you what their business is like. They've got all the ones in the bottom end face out onto Woolies car park, and you've got the car park behind Midway Furniture and that, and then you've got car parking up in the top end of the street that backs on, and all their rubbish is just dumped out the back. And that's just as bad, if not worse, than you're talking about tidying up the main street. The back end, I think it needs to be addressed considerably, but more so than the front end. Even though it'd be nice to see it all, you know, updated and painted, which is more the landowners. But I think on the whole, I see that the council workers do quite a good job. And I'm there 7 days a week. See it.
Councillor Fuller, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I will. And I suppose primarily, I just would want to say that I'm not sure how anyone could construe that this notice of motion was critical of our staff. There's, the staff that do the work are very proud, and you can tell that by the way that they do their work. And they work within the constraints of the budget which the council has set for them. They do the very best they can with the budget that we give them. And this motion was about ensuring that they were empowered to have a little bit extra resource, if that's what was required, so that they could go ahead and do what I'm sure they all know needs doing far better than myself. I too look forward to the strategic work of improving the street. However, just because you've got a second-hand car or a second-hand piece of clothing doesn't mean you don't wash it and clean it and take care of it. You keep washing it and cleaning it and taking care of it and making it appear as best it possibly can until such time as you can replace it or improve that. So that's what this one was about. This is about taking a leadership stance. There's an old saying in waste management: clean equals clean equals clean. If you leave an area dirty, people don't take ownership of it and they're not adverse to leaving it dirty. If you leave an area clean, people will take pride in it, and they won't want to be the one that dirties the space. They won't want to be the first one to make it dirty. They will want to help maintain that. And Penguin does look fabulous, and Penguin looks fabulous largely due to the volunteer work of the Penguin 7-Day Makeover Committee that just keep repotting the flowers and replacing the plants and touching up the paint. We had an investment in Raby Street. It was the Ulverston 7-Day Makeover. It wasn't embraced, most of us participated, all of us participated at the time, did some good bits and pieces. There wasn't the want of the community to provide leadership for ongoing work there like we've seen in other towns, and that's okay. That's not a criticism of anybody. It just means that the leadership for that ongoing work needs to come from this body, not from someone else. So thank you for your input and your thoughts, and hopefully we can work together to have a small focus to just have a spring clean the second-hand item until the new item comes along.
Motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? I'll move on to 10.11 statutory determinations. We have a vote of-
No, it's just all. I'll move that, Mayor. Second.
Any queries on those determinations? Put the motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.12, the annual plan for the year ending 30th of June. Can I have somebody move that the annual plan be approved?
So move, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Van Roen. Second, Councillor Hiskett. Councillor Van Roen, would you like to speak to this?
Well, Mayor, it is a very extensive document. There's no doubt about it. We have been through it at workshops. Don't think Councillor Hiskett would have any reasons to have any more questions. They would have all been answered by now.
Very adequately.
And so I'm quite happy for it to go through with no further debate. Thanks.
Are there any other speakers other than Councillor Hiskett? Any other speakers? Councillor Hiskett, would you like to say something?
I don't feel welcome saying anything now. Quite happy. I did have a slight comment, if I may, Councillor Van Roen. Just that, I mean, obviously there is a fair bit rehashed from 2021-22, which is well explained in the prelude. But if we take this opportunity to finish that work, then I think that's an appropriate response. So we just, again, I urge that if we get halfway through the year and we're still there's likelihood that we won't, as I've said last year as well, that we try to address that as early as possible, not leave it as late as we can. There might be other alternatives than just pushing it to next year. It might be some strategic decision that the councillors make on what is and isn't important to get finished. Whereas this year it just became, we'll just have to push it to next year's annual plan. So that's just a general comment. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on the annual plan? Ron, would you like to?
No, it's all been said.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. 10.13 is the estimates for the year ending the 30th of June. I'll have somebody move that they be adopted. Thanks, councillor Hiskett. Seconded, councillor Fuller. Councillor Hiskett.
Yeah, I've got 5 minutes of debate here now. I need to filibuster as long as I can to keep Councillor Van Ruin entertained. No, I think all pretty good. There are lots of information in there, all publicly available, and I see no reason to have any major concerns.
Any other speakers? Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to, for its entirety, but in particular, this piece of work, it must be an awful lot of work, and it can't be easy. The conflicting pressures, things we haven't been able to do, things we want to do, things we know we have to do, and you know, I know that there were some areas in particular. I recall the general manager saying that she was trying not to put the pressure on the roads, particularly the rural roads and those type of areas, because I just appreciate the amount of work that goes into trying to find the middle road through all those pressures for our community. So,
Speakers. Hiskett, did you want to close?
To agree with Councillor Fuller, that's our ticket, just so the public can see. That's just the estimates, not including fees and charges that are to come, but just the estimates. So council have done an amazing job.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? 10.14 is the fees and charges for the year ending the 30th of June 2023. I have somebody move that they be fixed.
So move, Mayor.
Thanks, councillor Beswick. A seconder, please. Councillor Viney. Councillor Beswick, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, again, as other speakers have said in the other documents that we're going through tonight, as the council, we've been workshopping all these annual plans, estimates, fees and charges and so on over the last month. Like all fees and charges, we'd like to keep them as minimal in increase as possible. As we're all aware, the CPI in Australia at the moment is running quite high. I feel that we've done the best we can. Some of the items that of fees and charges didn't go up last year. Some of them are up a little bit this year. But all I can say is that we've done the best we can with the budgets that we've got to try and fix and the income that we know that we are going to receive. So happy to move if these fees and charges be adopted.
Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. 10.15, the long-term financial plan. Somebody move this be adopted.
Thanks, Mayor.
Seconded, councillor Carpenter.
Obviously, if we don't plan, we plan to fail. And this is a very large document, and I'd like to congratulate the staff on the whole document's production, not just the long-term financial plan, but I think we have got a heap of work in front of us, and like I said, we continue to plan so that we know where we're going, and it's very important to do.
Any other speakers on the financial plan? Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Move on to 10.16, the rates and charges for the year ending the 30th of June 23. I have somebody move the suggested resolution.
So move, Mayor.
Thanks.
I'll second that, Mayor.
How would you like to speak to this?
I'd like to speak to this fund, Mayor. It's not a position council wants to find itself in, year out, of putting up rates. But I think with all the documents we just adopted, and if the public ever felt that they had the time to read all that, they would understand the process of where their money goes to and what it does and how we've got to collect and how we've got to set rates to be able to achieve the facilities and desire of the community that they want. It doesn't just fall off trees. We're lucky enough to be able to use a variation rate this year in concerns to some certain aspects of setting the rate. And every time I read them, I think I get more confused how we put it all together. But the way that the staff and the general manager explains it to us is incredible. If I could explain it back out to the public, I would have had to go to school for another 10 years, man. To me, I think it's a reasonable amount to increase the rate to where it's at. As Councillor Beswick just mentioned, the CPI had gone up, our cost index had gone up. Put them together, we've had some natural growth, we've had some increase in the AAVs. But you would also notice our expenditure for the year, we have brought it back a little bit in over all our documents in certain areas to try and accommodate a reasonable rate. Rates, you've got to have the ability to pay. And I know it's a tax, it's nothing else but a tax, so your community can grow as one. And we could set rates at whatever amount, but if people haven't got the ability to pay, it's worth nothing. I congratulate this council on always keeping that at the forefront. We can often say, yeah, we can have this and have that, but if people haven't got the ability to pay, it's worthless. I think we've come with an even balance. I think it's going to be acceptable. And for us to keep them services at where they are, we don't have a lot of choice, man. We would have just seen the windstorm that went through last weekend. That money just doesn't fall out of a tree for our staff to go and clean all that up. So that's where our money goes to. These extraordinary events, sometimes we think we're going okay and there goes $500,000 or whatever cleaning this up, $300,000 or $400,000 out of the blue. I believe the council are very responsible in where we're heading with our long-term financial plan. I also believe that we need to reduce some of our exposure to new assets. I think that's all set out there through going forward, and I would suggest that our residents could have faith in the way council sets rates in the future. They're not going to be exorbitant above what a CPI or thereabouts would be. I think going forward, I think we're very transparent and it's all there for people to see where our costs go. Not much more than I can add. And I just commend it to the table and listen to the debate. We've done the workshops on it, and I hope it's acceptable by our residents, Mayor.
Any other speakers?
Well, yes, Mayor. It's never a good time to increase rates and charges. I mean, sitting around this table for a few years, and I can never remember getting a letter complimenting us on any increases that we've implemented. It does create hardship for some people. I mean, when I look at the rates, particularly in the rural areas, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 for farms, businesses in the main street, $2,500 for a shop. I can understand that it does create some hardships from time to time, but people have to budget for it. And if the council doesn't increase their rates, then look, you're going to finish up with a situation like they've got in Burnie, and we have to play catch up, and we don't want that. I believe in increasing the rates to a certain extent each year, so that we stay. We're never going to be ahead of inflation, I guess, but that at least we keep up with inflation. Otherwise, you're going backwards. And so I'm quite happy to vote in favour of the adoption of those rates and charges.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Carpenter, would you like to close?
Gee, that was quick, Mayor. I will be quick. I encourage residents to pick up the corporate file and have a read, Mayor, because I firmly believe this council is extremely run, well, unbelievably run financially. And if you look through all our financial indexes and all the parameters that we work off against state legislation or whatever, to where we should be working into, we're always ranked really, really well. And honestly, sir, I don't believe anybody here within management or staff would put this council at risk. So I think we can tell, you know, we can ask the public, when you see that extra $100 or $200 this year in your rate bill, believe that it's been used to the best of its ability, and it's not being asked for just for the sake of being asked for, man. We do need it to cover costs, and we do need to keep somewhere near inflation going forward.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. To 1017, the rates and charges policy. I have somebody move suggested resolution. Thanks,
Seconded, Mayor.
Councillor Fuller. Seconded, Councillor Carpenter. Councillor Fuller, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor, and just to commend the comments made by Councillor Carpenter for the previous article. He was spot on there. And of course, this is the policy that allows us to do what we must do in the most fair and equitable way possible. We have on other occasions used the variable rating model when we have felt that you know, the hard figures, the hard numbers, the hard percentages played out unfairly on one sector or another, and it is the remit of the group of us to try and even out those lumps and bumps where required, not exclusively, but to try and even it out as we see fit. So obviously we need the rates and charges policy to make that clear to our community why we're doing what we're doing, and to do it in a structured way. So I commend the policy to the table.
Any other speakers? I'd just like to congratulate the staff for all of those, that piece of work that, you know, they're right from the rates, charges, the annual plan, and everything that they've that we've been able to pass tonight. There's so much work has gone into this, you know, with a very small backbone team this year because of one thing or another, and I just want to commend everybody who's been involved. I think they've done an excellent job to put all of these documents out.
Here, Mayor.
There's no other speakers. You want to close, Councillor?
No,
Ford?
thank you.
No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Move on to 1018, the lease of council land located at 12 The Quadrant, Ulverston. The report there with a suggested resolution. Can I have somebody move?
So moved, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Carpenter.
Second,
Second, Councillor Bestwick. Councillor Carpenter, would you like to speak to this?
Only quick, Mayor. I think it's there, self-explanatory, and the value has been done properly, so there's nothing there to hide, Mayor. Just commend it to the table.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Bestwick.
Mayor, as we discussed earlier, I'm happy to support the motion. I'd like to see some perhaps detail on what's actually proposed to be installed in this plot of land, just so it's not too onerous on the streetscape. Otherwise, we may have to plant a big tree in front of it, perhaps. Reckon. So I'll leave that with the general manager, and she will find something accordingly.
You're coming around.
Councillor Hiscott.
Yeah, it's just good to see, proper process take place. That looks, from my understanding of reading that they could have sought shorter time spans without having to go through this, but they're obviously committed to wanting to be in that area for a long time. So that's why they've sought this to go through a more complicated process, but it makes sure that we do the proper process, and that's a commendable course of action.
Any other speakers? Councillor Carpenter?
No, Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. That brings us to the close of our open part of the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Fine. That's rough.
Thank you for allowing me to.